Hi, it's Independence Day. We have Harvey Tuck here, who is from the UK. Now we understand how we got our independence in England. That's another story. Anyway, right now we're trying to get Kelly on. Kelly, can you hear us? Nope, she's still having technical difficulties, which is a bummer because this is her gig. Anyway, so my name's Christy Howard. Kelly, you guys know we're trying to pop her back in, and this is Harvey. So Harvey, tell me about what independence. Tell me, help me.
Sure, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for introducing me and having me on the show. It's a real honor and a privilege to come on the show, particularly today. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for that. And it's given me a chance to look at independence in all sorts of different ways, I suppose. I mean, I started with reading the Declaration of Independence, and I have to admit, it made me feel very ashamed of our country in the past. But I guess with all mistakes, you learn by them. And I think independence is freedom, and I think it's freedom to make your choices, to good and bad, and learn by them as well. I've got lots of different stories, I suppose, about independence myself, and but I think it's that freedom. I think it's a freedom to be kind, a freedom to choose your communities, your friendships, and even when you seek an independence from something, it can be a coming together of something else. And, it absolutely is. And I think an independence for me, I think I take it back to when I was very young and I got a car. I think that's when I had a sense of independence. I remember that first time I got in the car, and I could drive anywhere I wanted, and it felt strange, and it felt freeing, and it felt like that I had some independence there. But I thought, I mean, most people here probably know me, but I thought it might be a nice thing to do, to take it back a step and say hi and introduce myself, and kind of where I've come from and where I've got to. So my name's Harvey. I've always lived in the UK. I'm nearly 50 years old, as you can see by my lovely Father Christmassy beard. And I've been active on LinkedIn for probably around 7 months. And I guess I'd like to give a couple of stories. My story of my time on LinkedIn, and perhaps my wider story of where I've kind of come from. And I thought I'd start with LinkedIn, and it's a strange sort of a journey, but I don't think we don't really get any lessons as to how we're meant to do it here. And I started off just being me, I suppose, and I put posts mostly featuring my cat, actually. He'll probably join us on the call at some point. But so I started off thinking it was a business platform and doing a few jokes, and it was great fun. But I kind of soon realized that that wasn't really enough, and I hadn't really found my purpose. And I certainly didn't want to bring what I did for a living in. Oh, hi.
Well, people were saying hi to Kelly, and I'm like, Kelly's not even on. But
I know. Sorry, I interrupted.
No,
so Harvey's sharing about how he started on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
His cat. We're just awesome that you're here, Kelly, because this is your gig.
Absolutely. So I started off, but I realized that kind of doing cat jokes and various things like that was as much entertaining, but it wasn't very fulfilling. I've always been somebody who collaborates, and always been somebody who wants to help other people. And I started doing a post on a Sunday to try and help people who were looking for work, because it really resonated with me. Like most people, I've been made redundant. I've lost my job. I've had to look for a job because I'm in a toxic environment or I was unhappy. And I just thought it resonated with people. And it was strange. As soon as I started doing that, and this sounds corny, but it felt like I'd found a calling. It felt like that was the right thing to do. And when you get a gut feel, it's just the right way and the right thing to do. Well, I just got that feeling. And every Sunday, I put a post out, and lots of wonderful people have been in touch, and I reach out to lots of wonderful people, and I put the post out, and I try and help them connect with people. I try and help them keep their enthusiasm, their motivation up, and connect them to the right people. I always say it only takes one connection to change your life, and it has with me. And when I started doing that, all sorts of other things started happening. I connected with different people. I wouldn't be here talking with all of you wonderful people if it wasn't for connecting with Don Cohen. And Don Cohen ties the three of us together very well. And I had a Zoom call with Don, and then I was on his show, and it's all about just trying to help other people out and get them those jobs, get them feeling confident, get them feeling positive. And that's really my goal here on LinkedIn. I rarely mention what I do. It's something to do with coffee. There's a little clue. But I have to admit, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome when I was asked to come on, because of course, the people that are on the show are, genuine heroes. People.
So are you?
Yeah,
well,
you are.
But so are you. Look what you do every Sunday. So I'm gonna reel this in. First of all, I'm gonna do the comments. We are so glad that Kelly got here, because I wasn't gonna do this by myself.
I have faith that you guys could carry it out nonetheless, but I'm grateful I made it. Sorry, I'm tardy.
Whatever. That's okay. So I want to just acknowledge a few people that have been here, and then I'm going to go back to this imposter syndrome. But anyway. Yes. Okay. So we have Omar. And again, happy 4th.
Happy 4th.
We have people saying hi to Kelly, and she wasn't there.
Thank you.
Okay, you were there, let's see. Kelly finally shows up. And
hi, Matt.
Dennis, we agreed that we need to learn from our mistakes, but we can all go further by learning from others' mistakes, because we won't live long enough to know ourselves. True. Musical references attract me. Okay, so going back to independence, because now that we've got Kelly on and everything, I'm gonna throw myself out of when, for me, independence, confidence. I spent pretty much 40 plus years in depression. I'm looking outside of myself, worrying about what everybody else thought about me, worrying that, I needed to have this job, this paycheck. I needed, to be approved by this job. My job was my life. And through my journey and my mistakes and all the crap that I've gone through, I realized that once I stopped looking outside of myself and putting out other people's fires and putting out, deciding to just take care of myself. And that's not being selfish, it's being selfless. I became very independent of myself with the confidence. So Kelly and I had wanted to talk about, when we talked about this day, both of us were sort of yin and yang and very like-minded. Said, "Oh my gosh, it's about it's not only the independence of our country, but it's the independence of ourselves." because those who fought for us gave us our freedom to be able to be independent and confident in ourselves and make whatever dreams that we want to have because we have the power. So what do you think, Kelly? Am I on the right?
Yeah, yes, totally agree. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Again, I'm sorry I'm late. I was having massive technical issues this morning, but I made it. And so it is Christy saying yang, we so are. And even the more that we talk to each other, the more that we're like, man, we've got so much in common and we're so similar, but it's because we're two female human beings. So we have a lot of similarities. And talking about independence, yeah, it was one of those things to me that was so powerful. And like Christy said, not just about our nation and those who have fought for us, which I do want to say to all vets, military family, first responders, God bless you and thank you for your service. We can't say enough about it. Stay America. And but what I was thinking about independence, you know, as an individual, was right away what came to mind, which is kind of interesting for me, was when I graduated in the work, I very much identified my work. The more I like happiness destination I was trying to get to, but I was in a place where I was flat out told of my counterparts I didn't have a college degree. Granted, I was also the only, so you can kind of figure out what that was really all about. In any event, I was like, man, I am never going to have that be an excuse for why I'm not getting paid the same. And during this time, I was going through a horrendous divorce. Not that I think anybody says divorce is fun or it was a great treat. Mine was spectacularly horrible. And I went back to school during this time. And I mean, I was taking 22 credit hours a semester. In between semesters, I was taking the 3-week, like all day course to get credit so I could graduate. And I graduated in a little over 2 years and graduated with honors. And the independence of that for me was, and it makes me feel, and when I was thinking about it, I was like, man, this is making me emotional just thinking about it. It was the fact of this was a dream that I had had for myself, but it was never supported by the relationship that I was in at the time. And so leaving it and achieving it, and I didn't even know my first female in family to get because generations before me, you know, we went to college, it was to get your MRS degree. It wasn't to be it wasn't else, but there was something so powerful when I walked across the stage and heard my name. And it became paper because of the resilience or whatever you want to feel of me trudging through where I was living in truly the bowels of my life. But I had this goal and this light that I was like, see, I can do this myself, because I had had so much self-doubt during that relationship that I questioned everything, if I was good enough at anything. So that to me was so powerful in self. And exactly like you say, Christy, I think love of self and acceptance of self is true independence. It has nothing to do with external, which we spend so much of our life looking for, right? So, I mean, that's exactly what came to me. Thoughts?
Well, one, I want to mention back about him thinking he was imposter syndrome. You are not. Nobody. And the imposter syndrome, I'd never even heard of it until like this year. And I feel that, yes, we've had some awesome people come on, but you're awesome. We don't even, you know, honestly, it's sort of how we are. We only surround ourselves by awesome people. You know? So anybody who we bring on to the show, it's because we know that they've got such a story and they have such a journey that they can share with people. And your props and your stories and everything that you do, there's no imposter syndrome there. There's none.
Right, you're a gift, man. I mean, you're a hero to those job seekers. Every Sunday that you spend the time making that post And I'll tell you what, as a job seeker myself, and knowing, and then Christy and I even had this conversation over the coaster ride. Man, I feel like crap sometimes, because it's like, how is this so difficult? Some people like you that take their time to try to help others just because you want to help others, that does make you a hero, man. I don't care. So you're, to me, just as important as anybody else. It doesn't matter what your title is, what you've gone through. It's what you do for others, just for the sake of doing it.
Well, thank you.
There you go.
I still feel a little bit.
Therapy bill shortly.
But I'm gonna keep on doing it because it's fun, and I'm getting to meet some wonderful people, and it's absolutely all about those people. And when I hear, so Cynthia was, she may be here today, but when she got a job recently, and it's just such an amazing feeling when somebody on there gets a job, or it's just lifted by something on there. But to me, it feels like a little thing to do. It feels like the least that someone could do. And it's one of my favorite times of the week. I always feel better myself doing it because I'm just trying to help somebody out. I've been talking to lots of people about the post, and if it just helps just one person, that would be enough. Just if it made one person feel a little bit better that day, you never know when something that you're going to say. Someone said that, even a comment. Who said that? I was going to have a little look, but it was a really good point. It's not. I always say, well, it only takes one connection to change your life. There we go. Melissa said this. One connection, one comment, one post can have an incredible impact on our lives, and yeah. I think that's true, and I suppose in that way we're all heroes then. But I've watched on this program some amazing people. I mean, I sit there sometimes just with my mouth open, just listening to their story, and I'm just a normal bloke, really. But I guess I'm a normal bloke that's trying to help people out. But I'm glad that it's looked upon like that. I really am. And thank you again so much for having me on today of all days as well. So it's an incredible honor. And my cat, I was talking about my cat. He is here just to the left of me, and he keeps poking his paw through.
He wants to be on the show.
Yeah, he does. Pebbles. Oh, I wanted to say hello to a couple of people as well that joined us today. So John McCartney is one of my good friends here, and I wanted to say hi to him. And Matt as well, both here in the UK. It was really nice of them to join us, and everybody else on here. And I just can't wait to hear. I always look forward to other people's stories as well. And, I think that's why I love doing things like this, because it's just an opportunity to share things, and more often to listen and to read things. And I love Dennis's rhyming as well. Dennis, you need to do some rhyming today. I'm going to be looking forward to that. Oh, there you go. Look, one connection, one correction. That's good. He is rhyming.
Always. Yeah. I did see that someone in there was off to see the Freedom movie. It's just
that's Nancy. You met Nancy when we were together in October. She's the model, the beautiful model.
Yes. Yeah.
We're going to go see the Freedom.
I can't believe that was October.
I know.
It feels longer ago.
No, it was 2 years of October.
Okay, that seems right.
Yeah, okay. And then I'm going on Saturday. I got tickets. So
I have to admit, it did make me want to watch Independence Day. It really did. That's
there you go. So I look at what I try to do now when I'm helping the job seekers is for them to understand their power with their own independence.
Yeah.
Because we've been, well, most of us, or myself, we're told that we were supposed to go follow what everybody says that we're supposed to, society. That we didn't have really a say, though we had a say, but we really didn't have a say in how we wanted to be, who we wanted to be. Like graduating from college, I was supposed to go to college. I was told, my parents went to college. I had to go to college. 2.5 years later, my father finally said, "No, you don't need to go back to college," because I didn't want it, and I showed by my grades. And for me, it's like at 18, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had to try to figure out what I was trying to do and find my own independence over my parents telling me I have to be, have a college degree. I have to do this. You have to do that. And unfortunately, as a child or as a young adult, you sort of, at least in our generation, got stuck into that. And so for me, it took me through my depressions, all the depression, bouts of depression that I would go through, and moving. I mean, I would just say, okay, well, I'm going to go to Manhattan. You don't have a job. You don't know anybody. I'll go. I'll figure it out. Because I was running away from the depression. However, I realized that also it was helping me grow within myself, of my confidence in myself, and figuring it out because I didn't have anybody to hold my hand to do it. So independence to me is the freedom, the freedom of, we always go back to this, jumping out of the plane.
Yes.
When I found out,
I thought of that yesterday too, is, the freedom and the independence of the jumping out of the plane for me. And those of you that don't know this story, at the beginning of the year, before Christy and I had, we had already had this in motion, we had already been in talks about the awesome journey. But I was really saying, I need to go into this next year, because I'm not a New Year's resolution person. I believe if you need to change something in your life, change it. You don't need to wait for a date. But I was like, I need to go into this year like a plane. Meaning I was feeling so stifled, stuck, struggling with work. And it's like, man, when you jump out of a plane, and those of you who have, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. When the door opened, and I mean, the plane I was in, it was a tiny little Cessna. I had the jumper on my back, a photographer, and the pilot. That was all that was in the plane. The door opened, and I was supposed to scoot to the edge and put my feet out and under the plane, and then the jumper would roll over the top of me. Opened, the photographer jumped out on the wing, and I scooted to the edge, and my feet immediately went wing, because your brain is going, what in the hell are you doing? Because all you see are all those little squares, down below. But the brain is like, no, this is danger. Stop. And the jumper was like, Kelly, knock it off. And I'm like, I'm not trying to do it. And finally, I got my feet under, and rolling out, the free fall. I mean, talk about a tummy turn, like no other tummy turn you've had in your entire life. But the free fall was this loud, chaotic, but every photo of me, I've got an ear-to-ear grin, because it was totally rad. I can't say anything cooler about it. And then when the parachute pulls and it settles, you're in this most incredible quiet that you cannot, but it was this peace and sense, again, that you can't really put into words, but anybody that's been there knows the feeling. And I had that moment of like, not I didn't want to land. I totally wanted to land, and I wanted to go right back. As the fear going out of pain is like any situation. Once you jump through out when you're going through it, but then shortly after, on the other side of it, it's this most sense of like, relief. Like, why me so long to get over here? And that was part of Christy and I doing this. We literally put a date on the calendar, and we're like, this is when we're launching, whether we're ready or not, or we know how to do it all or not. And we did it. To remind ourselves, we need to start living like we're jumping out of the plane. These scary things stifle us, but once we, trudge through it or push ahead, we can exhale sooner and go, man, why did I wait so long? And which is why this whole community is so important in supporting one another, because everybody is going through something, whether you are a job seeker. And like I was saying, I have my days too. Like I said, I called, or Christy and I were talking over the weekers.
That's why I'm so bored sitting in the pool while we're talking.
But same, I was like, girl, I'm just feeling in a funk because, I'm getting, rejections. You're overqualified. You're this. It doesn't make you feel great, no matter who you are. So, I mean, I struggle too. It's not like we're sitting here because we've got the world figured out. We're human beings too. We're just trying to give voices to people, share stories of others to help continue to inspire, motivate, encourage, and all of those things for everybody else. Like Harvey said, whatever we can do to help give back, help anyone. And if it's one person today, tomorrow, next week, whenever it is, then that's all that really matters. So those are my thoughts right there.
So Harvey, tell us how you figured out.
I just wanted to touch on a few things that both of you just said there that resonated with me. I think what you said, Christy, about finding your independence is about belief and faith. And when we're talking about the job seekers, it's about trying to instill that confidence, that belief, and that faith that you can do whatever you're set out to do. I think when I was younger, that wasn't, just as the story you were telling me, that wasn't exactly necessary. My parents were very supportive, but I don't think at school and things like that, it was necessarily encouraged as much as it is now, and with the support that's now. So I think that it's encouraging people's passions. If ever I get to have the privilege of having a conversation with somebody who's looking for a job, and again, anyone reach out to me for that conversation. But, I'll always talk about what somebody's passion is, or try and find what that is. Any great teacher is looking for a passion in a student. And I think if you can find that, the reason that it reminded me is because when I was young, I wanted to be a pilot, but I didn't have the faith or the belief that I would be able to pass the exams. I didn't do it. I mean, I love my career, and I was a chef, and I got to do lots of lovely things, but there was something that I wanted to do that perhaps at the time I needed someone to give me a bit of a nudge and say, look, you can do this. Here's the right path to take. And it reminded me as well, Kelly, when you were talking about jumping out of the aeroplane. I didn't quite do that, but I did almost get my pilot's license. And it was a story of collaboration as well, because I met a chap at it was actually a car racing day that I took my son to, and it ended up doing a flying lesson on that day, and I was hooked. Just like you said, you had that grin on your face after you did your parachute jump. I was kind of hooked on the flying, and did a bit of a deal with him where I helped him out on various things, and I was helping him out on his business, and he gave me some flying lessons, and I did manage to land a plane and take it off again. So I sort of achieved something there. But I think what resonated is faith and belief in yourself. And I think that's what an encouragement. And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm gonna bring a little prop. You thought I might.
Go for it.
This one actually wasn't going to be a prop, but it's just because what we've just spoken about there reminded me about what we have. So when we're talking about faith and when we're talking about belief, my wife and I have these little angels, and here they are. Right. One each. Now, you'll notice with these, one of them has got a broken wing, unfortunately. And my wife was we were debating whether we should just buy some new ones, but I said no. I said it just reminded me that even if you have a broken wing, you're still together, you still support each other, you still look beautiful, you still can do what you need to do. And when I look at them, they just remind me about supporting people, and that's why I keep them. I thought it was a nice moment just to share my little angels. I guess that's what the job seekers are. They're little angels.
I love that. So when Kelly was telling about the jumping out of the plane, and I did that for my 60th birthday.
Did you? Wow.
Yes, my 60th. But my experience, I was always afraid of fear. I was always afraid of fear. I was always afraid of heights. And what is fear? We're fearful of something that we don't even know what it is. We're really fearful of. It's a thought. It's a expectation. And so, and I've shared on Dawn's show that I was raped in my 40s, and I don't remember much. I went inside myself, which probably helped. It obviously helped me. So I was at a spa that did a lot of challenges. And so over the years, I climbed a rock, helping me to get over that height thing, the fear. And then I climbed a 35-foot telephone pole. I was belayed. And if people don't know what a belay is where you're tied up and then people at the bottom are going to help you bring, when you jump, they're going to be taking care of you. But there's a trust thing. I didn't have a lot of trust on people. Over the years, I've gotten a lot better. And so I had to climb up this telephone pole. It's windy. You get up and it's literally like a Frisbee size top, but I had to pull myself up and stand up. So at that time, it completely changed my life. I got up there. I had to trust the people that they're not going to be sitting there chit-chatting and making sure that they're watching me. And I had to jump. And at that moment, the visual of my rape, everything that I didn't remember came through me. And yes, it took me, most people would take them 5 minutes. It took me 20 minutes. I was just sitting there bawling my eyes out. But I allowed the experience to go through me and let go of all the fear that I had of what happened, the fear of being on top of this tall telephone pole and this wobbly Frisbee type of piece of wood, and the fear of the expectations that somebody's not going to catch me and be there for me. And then I jumped, and I've never looked back. I've learned that I'm fearless, that if I don't know, I won't know. I've walked on hot coals. I've sat in a sweat lodge. I mean, I'm like a deer, the zip lines over crocodiles. It's like, I love it because I at that moment, I got my power back. And I was free of the fear, so I got my independence. And so to turn to where the job seekers are, and Kelly and many people I adore are in that place. They're in the fear. They're in the fear of getting a job and then getting laid off. They're in the fear of imposter syndrome. They're in the fear that they're not good enough. They're in the fear that they're going to get rejected. And when we hang on to that fear, we're taking away the independence of ourselves.
Well, so, amen. There's so many things about what you just said that resonate in so many different ways, because, even through my own experience, some of those things about not trusting others or, being disappointed. And I always said, I don't want to trust this person because they're just going to disappoint me. Well, what's the definition of disappointment is that the greater the disappointment is based on what reality is and your expectation, the difference in between. And that has to do with not trusting others. And there was definitely a point in my life when I left my ex, is I did think, I am independent. I can take care of myself. I can do all of these things. I don't need anybody else, because I was so hurt by that experience. But then that's a bad place to be, because yes, I can do anything. I mean, I felt great the first time I used a power tool and hung things up or figured out how to do certain things that I never thought I would have to figure out how to do. And then you get to a point in your life where you're like, yes, I can do anything, but I don't want to have to do everything. And knowing that part of being independent isn't you doing everything. It's also being able to trust others and surrounding yourself with a strong tribe, because we don't do it alone. Independence doesn't mean only you. It does mean the freedom to be surrounded by people, I think, that help raise you up. But I definitely went through that path of, I don't need anyone, because then I was safe, right? I'm not going to get hurt by anyone if I don't need anyone, which when you look on the converse side of that is all I was doing was hurting myself, because not allowing love into my life in any way, because it was even with friendships. I mean, I would isolate because it felt safe. But it's not safe. It's quite the opposite. So I just think that's an important point, right? And yours is a perfect example, Christy. The trust of the independence of knowing you needed others in order to find your freedom, and I think that's beautiful. And girl, visualizing that, I mean, I'm an adrenaline junkie. I mean, I always loved roller coasters, fast cars, jumping out of the plane because I literally wanted to go right back up after I did it. But being on that telephone pole sounds terrifying to me for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it just seems terrifying. But I would likely do it, but it just seems super scary, those steps to try to stand up on it. Like I can almost see the whole thing shaking and being like, oh my God. But beautiful share. So what are your thoughts on all that, Harv? And I don't know why I'm just sudden calling you Harv. Where did that come from? Harvey Tuck.
Lots of people call me that. You can call me whatever you like. That's absolutely fine. I think it was. I've just seen something as well. I mean, I want to comment on someone's put here, with no expectation, there's no disappointment.
Yeah, it's off of somebody's link. I can't find it.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing. I'm not sure if it's completely correct, but it's an interesting thing that I think people might think, and I think it goes along the lines of what you were saying there, Kelly, about the fact that it's a little bit, maybe if you don't trust people, and if you don't, what do they say? It's better to have loved than lost than never loved at all. And I think it comes into that kind of category. If you put yourself out there and you kind of conquer whatever fears you have, whether it's about doing your dream job or whether it's about forming friendships or trusting other people in any way that you've lost that trust, then I think you do have to, you have to sort of put yourself out there, and you have to have some expectations. So I like that comment because it inspires thought, whether it's right or wrong. I love to have a different perspective on something. I think, again, going back to, I like to keep it going back to the sort of the job seekers, because it's so much where we're all about helping people like that. And I think the fear of losing your job is a really interesting one that I think a lot of people, not necessarily everybody's in the position of looking for a job, but some people are certainly in a position where they think, oh my goodness, I might lose my job, it might affect my family, or I don't like my job, or my job is unfulfilling. And I think addressing your independence and your fears is really important for that. And I think if someone can be there to support you to do it, then it makes that journey a bit easier. And there's been many moments that that I've gone through sort of similar experiences, even relatively recently, and I think it's really important to still keep putting it out there, to still support other people. Some people have argued with me that you've got to be completely sorted out yourself in every possible way in order to be able to then help other people. I don't agree with that, because I don't think any of us are. I think whatever position you're in, it's often the people with the least. I'm not talking about money here necessarily, but it's often people with the least that give the most. It's not always the case, but I think whatever you have to give in support of other people, if you just do that, then it's gonna make the world a better place if we all just help each other out.
Amen.
We live in an amazing world. We live in a world where there's a huge amount of kindness. It's not necessarily put out there, but just helping somebody across the street, or saying thank you to somebody. I think in a job and as an employer, an important message to get out there is to have appreciation of the people around you, all of the people around you, whether that is in inverted commas your boss or whether that is somebody that works with you, to appreciate them and to praise them and to say thank you is just really important. It's a really simple little thing to do, to just say thank you. I was just having a look. There's a few more people here. It's nice to see.
Hey, Dr. Marilyn.
Ah, excellent. We'll never all be sorted out. We are just us. Live moment to moment. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And I was thrilled. Oh, that's just reminded me of something. I was just going to say I was thrilled when somebody told me that you don't have to be completely sorted out. It reminded me of a story, and I can't remember who told me it now, but there was a grandfather and a grandson, but the grandson he was sort of reaching that time in his life where he was looking to be perhaps a little bit more mature, take on responsibilities and that sort of thing. And he was asking his granddad kind of how he did that and how he dealt with those responsibilities. And his granddad just whispered to him, "We're all pretending." And I liked it because we are all pretending in a way. We can just be. We just need to be us, and that's all we need to do. We don't have to be in inverted commas adults. We're just all human beings, going along and just being us. And I think if you put out kindness, it's all going to be good.
And that's the whole thing. The law of the LinkedIn user, the law of attraction teaches gratitude in all things.
Amen.
And I want to go back to about if you have no expectations, you have no disappointments. I sort of have that mindset in my life. It's not that I don't have expectations of people. For me, I just allow people to be who they are.
Yeah.
And I just have to go with the flow because they're going with their flow. And so if I have expectations of them to be a certain way, then I'm going to have a disappointment because that's just life. Mm-hmm. But if somebody's just who they are, they're going to show me their truth once they're going to be comfortable in their truth. And I don't want to have the expectation on them to have disappointment because we disappoint ourselves daily. They have enough disappointment in their life, and I don't want to take that on. I have my own disappointments in my life, so I don't want to take on somebody else's disappointment. But when you're paying it forward and you're serving other people with no expectations of being received, returned, then there's no disappointment. So when you live your life in independently into yourself, no, I don't want to say into yourself because that sounds selfless, then there's no disappointments because you're still learning. You're going to trip and fall and figure it out, but you'll at least be able to say, but I did it.
Yeah. Amen. I think it's such yeah, and it's a great point on the expectation and not being disappointment, because I think another way while you were saying that, Christy, that came to my mind was I don't have an agenda when I do something for someone or with someone, and so there is no expectation. Hey, if I send you a link to a job or you ask me for a connection and I made it for you and you do nothing with it, that's on you. Like I'm not going to carry that. And I think to take this into the work environment, because one of the things that, as a young manager that I used to struggle with was I would have an expectation that someone should do it the way that I do it. So because I, am at 100% and I'm an overachiever, which I'm not going to say is a great thing all of the time, because it isn't, because it can be a stifling thing as well. But also understanding in the work environment that not everybody does things the way that I do it, and that's fine. It's okay. And then to understand that. And I think that's a hard lesson for a lot of young managers, because they'll be like, man, it's going to take them longer to do it. And if they just did it this way, it could get done quicker. So I'm just going to do it and not even rely on them. So you're not even giving them a chance. So exactly like you're saying, Christy, is meeting people where they're at. And to go to Harvey about kindness, it's really about approaching everyone with empathy in some way. Mm-hmm. And that is an independent thought in the sense of, I'm coming at you in an empathetic way because I have no judgment. We're all human beings. And, again, we're all going through something, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a job search or anything like that, but maybe I'm struggling personally with a relationship. There's so many things, or just in the world, I'm having a hard time finding positivity, whatever it is. And that's kind of, the other reason why Christy and I wanted to do this, and why we did get involved in the Hour of Empower, and why Harvey is on the Hour of Empower. And I also thought this morning when we were trying to get logged on here, or when I was trying to get logged on here, I should say, is how funny is it that the three of us, of course, would never have met if it weren't for the Hour of Empower. Mm-hmm. And, John is kind of like the 6 degrees of separation of Donald Cohen on LinkedIn. And I'm like, but it's probably less than 6 degrees, right? Because everybody in some way knows or is connected. So anyways, I just thought those were my thoughts in it, and some great comments. And I did notice a little while, but I never had a way to interject it, was Dennis did make a great rhyme about me choosing independence over the divorce was a great choice, or something along those. It rhymed, but it was really a good one. Yeah. Yes, there you go. Love it.
Good stuff.
So I don't know who this LinkedIn user is, sorry, but I've got plenty to refer to if I can be of help. If you could just put your name in so I know where you're coming from, that would be fabulous. Yeah. So yeah, sorry about that. So what do you say, Harvey?
First of all, I think you're absolutely right about Don as well. We wouldn't be together if it wasn't for Don. So we've got to give a big shout out to a fellow hat wearing chap.
Yes.
My wife's just come in. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Mrs.
Susie. That's Susie.
That's right, Susie. I was going to call her Sally. I apologize.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and it shows how a really positive connection like that can just make a real difference. It's made a difference in our lives. Absolutely, it's made a difference in my life. And I think when you were saying there about just if someone's just having a bit of a bad day and not feeling so good, not feeling so positive, and they can be, all sorts of different people in different walks of life as well. Mm-hmm. I always feel better after the Hour of Empower. It's a really important, and it's very similar to what we're doing here. It's people with fantastic points of view, wonderful perspectives on life, sharing that. I always feel better, whether I'm, on the camera or in the audience. It just makes me feel better, and I thought there was a few comments that I thought was nice, good as well. Sheaf said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Amen.
And, I think that's a good thing to remember, to be bold and to be independent in that way, that you take those shots. If you take 100 shots at something and you miss 99 of them, you still hit one of them. If you aim for a target and you're nearly there, it's better than not being there in any way. So I think what's another thing that I saw I wanted to pick up on. Hold on. Scrolling down. One of the things it reminded me as well, I think it was one of my old bosses that said that you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should. This is about empathy, really. It's about empathy, and if you use them in that order, because listening to someone is a really good way of supporting them, encouraging them, letting them find that independence. And actually, I really loved how, and this is what I love about this. We picked up on that with no expectations, there's no disappointment. And it's a really poignant and interesting comment, because it's been spun around again by you, Christy, and I loved that as well, because completely agree with that. Yeah. I don't think about anything that I'm gonna get back after helping somebody else ever. All I want to do is just help somebody, and they make that point really well there. And again, I think if you don't have expectations when you're putting something out there, I think the world just gives you something back every now and again when you need it. And it's a nice way to live. I think it's great learning.
I'm at this place right now. I'm asking for recommendations for my LinkedIn profile, for the people I've worked with, the conversations I've had, because I'm trying to build up. So when people see my recommendations, they know from other people what I do and how I've helped people. But I don't really like asking for recommendations, because what I do is because I love helping people out. However, to build my brand and for other people to know who I am, you have to ask for those kind of things. So it's sort of a double-edged sword type of thing that it's really uncomfortable for me. Now, it was different when I was an executive assistant and I ran around with my head cut off to these people. And I'm just like, look, I need a reference. I'm going to go get a new job. Here, asking people that I help daily. And many times, it's my time because I love what I do. But asking those recommendations, it's tough, because it's humbling, and some people might not think I'm humble, but I am. But it's
she totally is.
It's humbling, and I guess I look at it that I have no expectations if people are going to do it or not, but I'm hoping that when people give kudos to other people, it's not to stroke their ego. It's for other people to say, hey, this person's a true person. They are who, they say they are. They are here to help, just like you, Harvey and Kelly. All three of us. What we do, the only way people are going to know is if people interact with us.
Yeah.
But people are in the fear, and they don't want to have that conversation because they have that expectation of a disappointment, because that's just life. Everybody, pretty much everybody goes into that.
Yeah, that's really resonated. And someone said, now who said? I think it was Jeff that said this. It's also being able to know when to say I need help. So Jeff Witherspoon said that, and that is exactly what you were saying there, and it resonates with me as well, right? Because I want to help people, and every time I do it, I want to help people a bit more in a different way, and I have all sorts of different ideas. Maybe I want to focus on one particular person, really help them in detail, and spend a bit of time with them. But I had an idea, and this was a few months ago, because I like painting, and I came up with this initiative to paint pictures, produce postcards, sell them, and the profit will go into a fund to help people who were struggling financially. But I really struggle with this because it involves me asking for help, because I've got to ask someone to buy a print to help raise some money. My friend Jean Van Horn and I, we did it together, and we just thought, would $200 or $300 or $500 help somebody if we could raise $200 or $300 or $500? And the consensus was it would. And to be able to actually, if someone was short on their mortgage, or this was inspired by Nina, I need to give a shout out to Nina White, who's on the Sunday Post. She's a lovely lady, very inspiring to me. And she did a GoFundMe, and it was a GoFundMe for meet my monthly bills, because she had lost her job and she was trying to meet her monthly bills. It was a brave and the ultimate asking for help there. But that's one of the things that I wanted to do. If I could raise whatever it is, and all of that money goes towards helping somebody who really needs it, because I've absolutely been there where, I'm juggling finances and after having to go from one job, trying to find another, you're phoning up, you're adjusting payments, all these sorts of things. And, I've definitely had moments where the equivalent of $200 would have helped me. So yeah, I can really resonate with asking for help, even still, because I don't want it to come across as crass or, but, Paul's here. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
But yeah, I think that was a really interesting comment. And as I say, all of these words just for me are real take homes and learnings, for different perspectives on these things. And, that one was a good one.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting, because I feel like it's the people with the most, servant hearts, if you will, that have the most difficult time reaching out, asking, because to say asking for a recommendation, and granted, this is part of, business strategies that I've talked to business owners about, well, hey, you need to ask your current clients for, for reviews, recommendations. And they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. And it's like, well, but everybody goes and reads those to see if they come to you. And usually people would do it in a second. They're like, oh my gosh, it never even dawned on me to do it. Because I'm guilty. Christy and I just talked about this yesterday, and it's on my list because I'm like, girl, I haven't even given you a recommendation. But I feel like when you are a giver, it's more difficult to ask for something, even though we're ones that anybody comes to and asks for something, we would do whatever we can to help them. What can I do to connect? And I do want to say, because the Piglet and Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah, I love that one as well.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I've written that one down because I love that one. And
I love Piglet and Winnie. I love Winnie the Pooh.
Yes, I used to have. I would sew different vests for my Winnie the Pooh when I was a kid.
Oh no, you still do. Come on, I'm into it. Just don't kill it. I mean,
I think I want that one on a t-shirt, actually.
I mean, and it goes back to those who have lost jobs and doing the GoFundMe and everything like that. All three of us have been there. I mean, I remember where I would be like, it was 2008, $5 here, $5 gas, food. I mean, I was juggling 5 part-time jobs. And I mean, these are, carrying pizza delivery to, being a receptionist, but 5 part-time jobs just to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. And I've shared with job seekers. I know how hard it is. I have been in your place way too many times. So I'm very empathetic, and that's why I do what I do, to try to get you where you can see different things and make yourself shine. However, there are small part-time jobs, a security company. I mean, just to bring anything in while you're still looking, because if you spend 24/7 looking for a job, you're going to burn out. It's going to destroy you. So once you finally get that job, you're not going to have any energy. But if you get out and go waitress or work at Home Depot or work at a security company, because there's a security company, Allied, I think it's called. They're the biggest security company, and they hire anybody and everybody. You never know who you might meet when you're outside. You don't know if you're, if you're working at a place, that person might need somebody. That's how Cynthia got a job. She reached out to somebody, not to talk about, I need a job, but the person's like, oh, they knew her. And they're like, I didn't even know you were looking for a job. And then hired her. No interview, nothing. So for the job seekers, I ask you, don't spend 24/7 looking for this job.
Mm-mm.
I talk to many people daily of where it's like apply and now walk away. You have time to go hug a tree. Take that time because the people that are doing on the other end, they're taking their time or they're putting a job on hold. And you're sitting there holding your breath for all those jobs. Just walk away, get out of your head. Go find a part-time job that's only, yeah, I know nobody pays anymore because they don't have to. And it's disgusting. And I can go on that rampage. But at least it's money coming in and it'll help supplement you. So I'm sorry, I got on my soapbox. You know how.
No, which is great though, because people need to hear that. I think, especially, and granted, we could go on about this portion of it, for a whole different episode, as a matter of fact, because, the part of it, and the reason that I was sharing that, even this weekend, me talking to Christy, because I'm struggling, is just to be like, hey, we're all human and we're all going through it. Like I have my bad days too. And it is a struggle, and it hurts. And I know it's the ego when I start feeling that way, and my insecurity, because I never had a time in my life where, until now, that I wasn't sought after. I was always constantly trying to get poached, when I had work, and now being, an accidental consultant, and trying to build a business backwards, or would love to have a full-time job, would be great, but to not get interviews, to not even get responses, all of those things, the amount of time that it takes, here, send your resume, now go to my website, do a password login, and now you have to redo the entire thing. I mean, it is a time suck. And then after you do it all, or applying for lower positions, because it's like, I'll take anything, and then getting like, you're the overqualified, which sometimes I still take as, well, is this ageism kicking in? But I'm sharing all that in a way of, it does plague on all of us, and it hurts, because it's like, why is this so difficult? And as many people as the three of us I know have talked to, it's astonishing how many people are struggling. And it's not like people are off work for, a month or two. It's 9 months, a year, longer that people are struggling. And I myself, picked up a super crappy job in 2020. And I'm going to admit, at first it felt humiliating. So I'm like, I made more money than this when I was a teenager. But it got me out of the house and doing something, because I was like, I can't sit here isolated and do nothing, because I was miserable. So I know that it hurts, because it's like, man, I'm an executive, but now I'm working at a minimum wage job. Who cares? I mean, for me, I did have to get out of my head on that, because it's not a matter of the title. It doesn't matter. It's for me, it was for my mental health. I just needed to do something and continue to have conversations. And again, I want to say, we try to say this every week, we're not doing LinkedIn lives because we're trying to be private. Please do reach out. We have so many connections combined. We're here to help. We know it's a struggle. And we're happy to refer, connect, what have you. And those of you, yes, that Christy has been gracious enough to do her free service, please do go to her page and give her a recommendation, because it's such a blessing for what she does for so many, to help them get back in the game, get their resume in order, because they haven't updated it in a decade, or they haven't needed to use LinkedIn and they don't know what the profile is supposed to look like. And Christy spends her time. And y'all, I've seen it. I've been at her house. I've watched her work. She spends hours and hours and hours of her day doing stuff to help others, and not charging them. Granted, she does have paid clients. I'm not saying that, but she does a lot just out of the goodness of her heart. And again, it's the servant heart, that just makes that all so special. So now I'm off my soapbox.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think there was a really important point that was touched on there as well, about mental health while looking for a job. I think it's really important. And there's some great people. I mean, Nick Smehurst, I think I've got his surname right there. Yeah, he'll kill me for that because I know him really well. But he's based here in the UK, and he puts out a lot of stuff to do with mental health and really helps people. So it's worth connecting with him. But I think that it's absolutely that. It's when, because when I've been out of work and struggling financially, it can just be really hard mentally. And just like you said there, Kelly, I had times where I would pretend I wasn't hungry and get a McDonald's for the kids, that sort of thing. Right. Because at that moment, I really just didn't have the money, and you do that, lots of people do that. And it's having that self-worth and having that lift while you're in that place. And just a comment, something small that someone does can really lift someone. We've often said that we don't know what a person's going through, when they react badly to something, but also, we don't know how something we might say, something really small, might just give someone that lift. I always use song lyrics in the posts that I do on the Sunday, and I do that partly because it gets that song stuck in my head all day, but also it gives it a sort of a cheery lift, and it may help lift people as well. And so I think it's really, really important. And even it might be a connection you've got that you think, well, they would never need lifting up. They're at the top of the world there. I recently connected with the Hounds of the Business Hour. Now everyone's got to connect with the Hounds. They're a great community, wonderful.
Yeah.
And Mike Ashbrainer there, he's been on Hour of Empower, and lovely chap.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I had a Zoom with Mike recently, and do you know what he said? It really lifted him, and that's the head of the Hounds. Everybody, everybody gets lifted. I got lifted by that conversation. I love having a Zoom or just a conversation in the comments. It certainly lifts me, and we come together like that and help each other, and it's really important.
Well, we're coming down, and it's 4th of July, and I know many people have barbecues. I get to go paint a house again.
Before we go, I do have one more prop. Now, this is a really interesting one as well, because this prop has been on screen the whole time. So eagle-eyed people may have seen it. And I'm going to do something I don't normally do as well, because I'm going to take my hat off. Now, partly, I'm going to take my hat off, prove I've got some hair, but also, you will notice I have a new addition. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, yeah. Your pin.
I have a little pin badge, which was specially for Independence Day. It's a UK and an American flag. And partly I take my hat off out of politeness and out of courteousness. But also, I think it represents us really well about independence can mean coming together with friendship and connection. And I absolutely represent that. And I admire all of the people on the post on a Sunday and all of the people I'm connected to. So my hat's off to all of you. And please just reach out to me, connect with all of these people here, because we're all going to be here to help you. I'll put my hat back on because I look cool.
Well, I appreciate this. I mean, the 4th of July is a wonderful day. It's our freedom. It's a freedom for us to grow. We're breathing. We're on this awesome journey because of our independence, because of the people that have fought for our freedom. So I hope that everybody has a very safe holiday, and stay hydrated. I know there's a lot of places around here. I'm even in a heat issue here. Not like you, Kelly. You're like
it's hot here. Yes. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I appreciate it because it is a holiday, I know, for most of us. So to be here today means a lot to all of us. Harvey, we can't thank you enough for being here. We're so grateful to call you friend, and that we've gotten to be a part of a community together in more than one place now. So again, thank you everyone, and join us again next week on Tuesday at 1:11 p.m. Eastern Time for the awesome journey, because we are all on this journey together, and together we do make it awesome. Have a great holiday. God bless you. And